I would like to ask this Section 44A enabling provision for constitution of STRF. What was earlier? What is the amendment you made on this? And the second question is whenever there's a disaster takes place, could be an earthquake, could be a landslide, could be a flood. At the state level, probably we do not have the, by the time, the first thing is rescue them. So the time taken for the center team or the expert team to come over there will take a long time. By the time the full damage would have been done. So generally it will take 1 day, 2 days, probably, but communication with the sender and the state will take time, whether it is this very severe or not. But do you have any provision to have an expert team? For the flood is different, for the earthquake is different, the landslide is different. So some of the state level, immediate you can act on it. Some provisions or some system should be made for that. Especially in the event of what happened in Wayanad recently, so more than about 400 people, including the missing, are dead. So this is sort of things happening in everywhere in the country now. So what is the system? Immediate rescue team should be there. Any arrangement is being done. And what about the amendment in the Constitution? What was there earlier and what is now enabling?
Sir, first you asked about the State Disaster Response Force. Earlier there was no provision in the Act. So the central government has been pursuing the state governments to constitute State Disaster Response Force. As I mentioned, the many states, about 26 states have notified State Disaster Response Force. But still the level of force, their capability varies from the state to state. Some states have very active State Disaster Response Force, some have notified but is not very capable.
What is that force called?
State Disaster Response Force.
Pardon?
State
SDRF.
like NDMA is there.
Okay.
It is on a national level. So now we want in this act, the change is that we want SDRF also.
Okay.